Hello. Thank you for inviting me to join you this morning. When I received the invitation from Jose and learned I would have 15 minutes to share my message, I clutched. I could easily wax on for an hour. 15 minutes? Impossible. I decided I needed advice, so I went to the person who communicates with the fewest words possible, my 26-year-old son. I asked him what points he felt were most important from my book. So with many thanks to Jose and the executive committee for the invitation, and my son Carl for his guidance, let's address a few of the core concepts of leadership that took me a bit of time and a bunch of hard knocks to learn. I'll be honest, some of these lessons you will need to learn on your own. I hope I can help you make your journey just a bit smoother. What I find most exciting about leading teams is the fact that people are involved. Projects are successful because of the people involved and often fail due to leadership challenges. You can manage yourself. That's what independent contributors do. But you cannot lead a team of one. Leadership is not a solo sport. It's all about the people, which brings us to the first truth of leadership. Just because you are given a title of team leader or project manager does not mean people will cooperate with you or help you out even. Leaders need to earn the trust and respect of their teams. After much research and a lifetime of observation, I realized the traits exhibited by the leaders who I admired are a combination of humility, integrity, empathy, and confidence. And these are all built on top of a foundation of trust. So how does someone develop these non-tangible traits when people say, I know it when I see it? But they can't give you a step-by-step action plan how to acquire these hard to define or measure attributes. And this leads us to the second truth. Leadership is an action verb. There is nothing passive about a leader. Your team leaders may look like they're sitting back at the main project office just delegating work to everyone else on the team and drinking lots of coffee. Let me assure you, they are the hardest working people on the team. My favorite leadership description is credited to Dr. Henry Cloud, who speaks about leadership as the creation of the kinds of conditions in which people can bring their brains, gifts, hearts, talents, and energy to the realization of a vision. There is nothing passive about being a leader. If you have time to sit around and eat bonbons, you better reevaluate your performance. But that leads us right into the third truth about leaders and leadership and what is a very deep, dark secret. It took me years, more than 10, 12 years to discover, and I'm going to share it with you today. Yes, leaders make it up as we go along. It is impossible to be a leader. People expect you to have an immediate answer for every question. The truth in today's world, change happens quickly, totally unexpectedly. No single person can be totally all-knowing. And so we have to depend on our teams. Input from teams are essential. Project plans are necessary to have a guidelines, but things happen. Never in your wildest dreams could you possibly imagine some of the things that just happen in the middle of a project, especially when you're working with technologies during their beta deployment and people get involved. Everybody has their story. Just ask. So the real key to being a successful leader is understanding your weaknesses. Put your people on your team who have those strengths. That way, just as we see in this visual metaphor, together, all of you can put together those pieces. It's also important to have people on your team who will own the problem along with you, and they're not going to sit back and wait for you to make a decision. The broad perspective provided by people with different backgrounds and experience provide a much larger solution pool than you might be able to develop on your own. Your team members become your greatest resource. Your team is essential to your success. So how do you empower your team to come together and use their talents to achieve the realization of the project mission? What tools can you use? What your team needs is a global positioning system. If you're driving in an unfamiliar area, the GPS in your automobile realizes when you've made a wrong turn and helps to get you back on the correct road for you to successfully complete your journey. So where can you purchase this project team GPS? Reality, you can't. You, the team leader, needs to be your team GPS. You may not have all of the information. Not all the paths will be mapped, but your team looks to you to help them continue on the path to complete your charter mission. So, how do you do this? Basically, there are 3 steps that you can begin to practice today. Pay attention to what is important. Set your team's expectations and priorities. Keep them apprised when the priorities change. This way they can pay attention to what you need them to pay attention to. Inhibit what isn't important. This means getting in front of rumors and other people's urgencies. They may think their idea is the very most important, but if it would be a diversion, you need to tactfully pull them back, get them aligned with the mission of your charter, and get them back working towards the right route, on the right path. Lastly, keep the team current and on track. This means clear communications that help people to understand when you are ahead or behind schedule, above or below budget, and any other project metric that measures successful performance. With very few exceptions, the teams we lead will be part of a much larger organization. Most likely, you will be receiving inputs from another team or sending your outputs to another team. While it might be easiest if each of your teams remained as a single isolated bouncing ball inside that organizational cone structure, our success as project leaders is determined by how well we understand the organizational structure and all the various relationships. How many of you have borrowed people from or lent people to other teams? I call this matrix team management, and it's becoming more and more popular as resources become scarce. The challenge of working within a matrix team environment is the project manager has all of the responsibility and none of the authority. If you are going to borrow someone from another team, what happens when the manager who is responsible for their performance review needs them to work on a task for them? Who gets priority? Probably not you. Unless the other manager understands the priorities for your project, suddenly there is good reason to have clear cross communications. Communications between and among your peers is very, very important. And so as you start to focus on establishing clear communications with other project leaders, we can utilize this extended cross-section for the bouncing organizational ball. It identifies the organization clarity required by each of the various layers. So you as the leader at the center of that core, you need to take some time to reflect on how you view your position and how others view you. Hopefully they align. Next, define your role within the whole entity. How do you fit into that organization, and what is your role in achieving that purpose, the priority mission of that group? The next step is to evaluate your project team. Think about their individual strengths that combine to create the shared identity of your group, and how they work together with other teams towards the mission of the whole. That final step is integrating all of those teams together so that you understand what their purpose is, they understand what your purpose is, and you can work together to make what could possibly be impossible individually. You get to combine all of your strengths and create that as a whole. Sounds simple, right? Or not? The key is to take one step at a time. Breathe, because oxygen helps your brain to think clearly. I'm serious. When you face a challenging situation, do not respond until you have taken 2 deep breaths. The pause allows a chance to calm, and it gives you an extra moment to consider the alternatives. And when you are dodging those proverbial bullets in the middle of a typical project mayhem, please do not forget the basics of project leadership. Pay attention to what's important, inhibit what isn't, and keep the team current and on track. Thank you very much for letting me join you today. Good luck along your project management journey. Please, if you'd like to keep in touch or extend a conversation, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can visit my website, or if you have a specific question, please send me an email. I promise I will answer. Congratulations to everyone for participating. and have a wonderful day. Thanks so very much. Bye-bye.